A very warm and hearty good day to all of you. My name is Ramanpreet Kaur Bhatia. I'm a chartered accountant from ICI, a certified practicing accountant from CPA Australia, and a distinguished Toastmaster from Toastmasters International. In this video, I'll be discussing some facts about industry analysis, about external environmental analysis. We'll be talking about the definition of industry. We'll be talking about the analysis of industry. We'll be talking about industry segmentation and few more topics from module 2 of Global Strategy and Leadership subject of CPA Australia. I hope you all will find some value in today's video. So let us proceed on with our topic for today, the external environment analysis. Now, what is external environment analysis? External environment analysis is something where, as an industry, I am analyzing my external environment. What comprises my industry? My industry is there in this, the whole nutshell, and all the bubble around it is the external environment. The external environment would generally be the factors which are beyond our control, on which we do not have a control as an industry, but that external environment will have a good amount of influence on the working of our industry. So we'll be reading more about it in next slide. In external environment analysis, we are interested in identifying factors that will have led the industry to its current state and are expected to affect its future growth and profitability also. Why is external analysis important? Why do we say that we need to do an external analysis? It is important because it is this environment that provides the context within which my whole organization is operating. If we do this analysis, we get to know the key success factors for the industry, and which forms the basis of understanding my organization's competitive position, how much I am in state for competition with others around me. Because as leaders, we are forced to look outside our organization and consider those issues that are normally not part of our day-to-day world. Because this results in a more critical analysis in terms of how IT strategy, stakeholders, capabilities, and performance fit within the context of external environment, and how this particular fit needs to change and evolve over time. That is why it is very important to understand my industry, plus the remote environment. Because there might be few things which are bad for me, but they will be beneficial for others, and vice versa. So I should be fully aware of the implications. I need to be clear about the growth and profitability drivers within the industry. How my competitors react. What is the disruption threat? What should I do and what should I not do in order to remain competitive? All these factors, which I just said right now, they are beyond my control. But although they are beyond my control, but they are controlling the industry. They have an influence on my capability. They have an influence of my planning, my strategy. So we need to analyze this external environment. The external environment refers to those factors which are external to organization that influences the organization's strategy, including but not limited to. Here we are saying not limited to. The factors could be even more. So in this formal definition, we are just highlighting few of the factors which might be affecting, but they could be more also. Social issues, right? Technological changes, economic drivers, environmental issues, political forces, laws, ethical considerations, and variety of other factors. Now, what does this external environment comprises of? It comprises of industry operation environment analysis, how the industry is functioning. My organization is a part of the overall industry, how the overall industry is functioning. Then what is the remote environment analysis? We'll be studying all these topics in detail. Remote environment analysis is what we discussed in the formal definition, which is the society issues, technological changes, economic drivers. That is the remote environment. Plus the operational environment of industry, plus my competitive positioning analysis. I know this is my organization, this is the industry. I need to understand how industry behaves. Going forward, I need to understand how the remote environment behaves. Plus, if I am there in the industry, I am not the only one. There are other competitors along with me. So how I fare in terms of those competitors. So this is all of this comprises of the external environment. Then as leaders, we should not fall in the trap of believing that we know everything. Because these are external factors, right? The external factors are changing continuously. And plus we do not have control over these external factors. So we say that we have studied these external factors, but they are not constant. They are changing continuously. So leaders should always be ready. They should always be open to any changes. They should be aware of any changes which is happening in this external environment. So we have to analyze all these factors which are outside our organization and not part of our day-to-day activities, but are still important for our organization. Right. So this is external environment analysis. Now we have, what are the tools of analyzing the external environment? If we are talking about industry's operative environment analysis, we'll be studying about Porter's 5 forces. Michael Porter has given us 5 forces, which tells us, or which we need to study to understand the industry's operational environment. Plus, when we talk about remote environment analysis, remember those points, that is industry and market, society issues, technological changes. So all that we will be studying under this steeple analysis, or we also call it as pestle analysis. Right. What is the purpose? Remote environment analysis determines industry growth. Industry operational analysis determines industry's profitability, and competitive positioning analysis determines competitiveness. Right. So all these 3 things comprises of external environmental analysis, and these are the tools through which we will be analyzing our external environment. Moving on, we start with industry analysis. Now, if we do this analysis about the overall industry, we will know that what is my organization's position in this overall picture. Where am I standing and what is my position in the competition market? So what essentially is industry analysis? Industry analysis process consider factors that affect both the growth and profitability. We have to remember that industry analysis comprises of, just going back to the previous slide, it comprises of the industry operational environment, plus the remote environment, plus the competitive position. Right. And the remote environment, it determines industry growth. So now again, if we come back to our present slide, we say that the overall industry analysis considers effect on growth and profitability, and both these things will decide my competitiveness. So that is the definition of the overall industry. What are the things which we need to understand? We need to define the industry. We need to define the value chain of an industry. We need to define industry segments. We need to have an understanding of industry life cycle. how the industry has evolved into its present state, and what are the key factors that have driven the historical growth and profitability. Right? What are the factors? If we know about our past factors, we know we can take care of them in present. What are the factors? What are my predictions for future? Which factors can change in future and how will they affect the industry overall? So I need to know the past as well as I need to estimate or forecast my future. Drivers for customer demand for the products and services offered by industry are industry's key success factors and how competitors compete in the industry, and technology innovations. So these are the few topics, subtopics which we'll be understanding or which we'll be going through in this module 2. First of all, let us try and understand what is industry. For any kind of strategic analysis, it is very important that we define the industry within which the organization is operating. But why? Because how can we operate or how can we make a strategy if we do not define the industry in which we are operating, or if we fail to agree on the definition of industry, or if we totally omit the definition of industry in our analysis? That happens sometimes because the data is not available easily. So we just think that, okay, let us not define the industry, let us straight away go for the environment analysis. We need to understand who we are, then only we can understand how the people around us is affecting us. So that's why it's very important to analyze industry, right? The concept of industry is actually defined by the firm in the competitive market. The firm, the market in which the firm sees itself operating in. That is industry. If I am producing product A, all my competitors who are producing product A will comprise of my industry. I am just an organization. I am just one part of the industry. There is part 2, there is part 3, there is part 4, there is part 5, and all these parts combine together to form industry. Right? So that is the industry. Why this definition is important? Because many a times we will be asked about questions based on the industry definition, the industry classification. For example, a global computer software supplier may define itself as global software industry. But where does specialist software company supplying retail management in Australia might define itself? But if we say that this software industry belongs to Australia, we can say that, okay, now the classification has expanded. We will say Australian retail computer software manufacturing industry. In reality, these organizations are competing with each other on occasions, but each has quite a different view on industry in which operates. And why we say that industry should be clearly defined, right? Whether, again, we'll just repeat this example. I am a software company. What is my industry? And I am supplying everywhere globally. So is it a global software industry? Yes, it's a global software industry, but this industry is located in Australia. So more specifically, I can say this is Australian retail computer software manufacturing industry. So what are the rules of industry interpretation? That's what I've written in this slide. If it is a particular product name, then that product name industry. For example, fruit industry, right? We take the example of a fruit, apple, right? Apple industry. But if we go, if we go just broader, the competitive market, we will say fruit industry, apple industry, fruit industry. But if that particular place name is there, then that place industry. Say Melbourne fruit Melbourne industry, Melbourne fruit industry, or Melbourne fruit apple industry. So that is the thumb rule for industry interpretation. We'll go by first, if not, then by second, if not, then by third. So that is how we will define our industry. Now we come to industry scope. We have defined industry, right? The smaller the scope of the industry, the more accurate the definition will be. What is the narrow definition? I am an apple producing organization, right? I am only focusing on apple production or the apple industry. But there are other fruits also being produced. That is the fruit industry. I am not considering fruit industry. I am just focused on my apple. What happens in this case? There is a risk of missing new trends, which might come from new entrants or from new substitutes. Say some substitute comes for apple, right? We say, just say guavas, okay? A hypothetical example, we just say guavas. I am concentrating only on apples, but there is a new substitute coming. I have not considered that. I have not considered guava at all in my definition. I'm just concerned with apples. But guava has become substitute for apple. Guava might soon overtake us. However, if we keep our definitions wider, there is less fear. I am an apple industry, but I am considering, in my definition, I'm including the whole of the fruit industry. There is less fear for me. I can take the risk, right? Because I am not missing any trends. Again, we come back to our software example. A narrow definition such as Australian retail computer software industry might make it easier for us to analyze the industry. But at the same time, it might increase the likelihood that the new trend may be missed. For example, there is an example given in the module which says that many bookstores were closed because of rising online book purchases and the move to e-readers or tablets or e-books. Many a times, these booksellers who were having who thought that we are selling through physical shops or through retail outlets, we know that these are our customers. They were studying that industry only. They missed the incoming trends. They missed the competitors. They did not analyze the environment. What was happening outside of their analysis? People were slowly shifting to e-reading, right? So they missed that trend. What has happened now? They did not analyze that the people might just move to reading online rather than buying the printed reading material. So a trend was totally miscalculated. And hence, those physical shops are experiencing problems now. There is a possibility, but if we keep our definition or analysis limited to our products and present customer needs, then we fail to anticipate any changing needs of customers or changing trends. Therefore, because if we are using the wider definition, we should change our parameters with regard to industry. There is also a possibility that competitors from outside may have included us in their definition. I am limited in my scope of analysis. I am not including any of my competitors. I am not going to check any of the upcoming trends or any competitors that are entering the industry. I'm not studying them. But those people, those competitors might be studying me. They might be analyzing me. They might be keeping a close watch on me. So I need to ensure that I am also analyzing them. Right? Because those competitors are studying us, they are analyzing us, and they may produce products or services which are a substitute for our products. Right? So we need to consider everything. The Challenge for a strategic leader is to be open to shifting parameters with regard to industry in which they operate. The example of industry definition or classification could be that if the organization is described as, say, ride share operator, which industry is that? That is tour industry or travel industry, right? Subscription or air travel, that is travel agency. Or if we say vegan restaurants, it's a food industry. If we say clothing manufacturer, it's a clothing industry. So we need to, of course, in nutshell, the smaller the scope is, the more accurate our industry analysis is. But we need, in that case, we fail to understand the impact of geographical regions, variations, other outside substitutes, any disruptions that might happen in future, any emerging trends. So we need to analyze it in a broader way. The next concept is industry value chain. Now, what is industry value chain? Value chain comprises the business process, the people, organization, intellectual property, technology, physical infrastructure. What is the purpose? That transforms the raw materials or talents into finished goods and services. And then these finished goods or services are offered and distributed to consumers. Right? So what is a value chain? Value chain is a step of processes that are happening and starts from the raw material and ends at the provision of that raw material to my ultimate consumers. Different industries have different value chains, and each stage of the chain can comprise a number of competitors. For example, if I'm producing product 1, I'm starting with the raw material stage. I am not the only one providing raw material. There is vendor B also who is providing the raw material. Then further, I am supplying this raw material to a manufacturer. That manufacturer will do some process on that raw material and will produce a finished good. That finished good will go to, again, a merchandiser. That merchandiser will take it to, say, the retailer. The retailer will finally sell it to consumers. That is the value chain. And I'm adding some value at each point of the value chain. It's a process. Now, what I have just talked about is the product process value change, right? I'm talking about a product, but we as chartered accountants or we as CPAs, we are service providers. We are not producing any product. We are giving services. So there is a value chain for services also. What happens in service industry at value with knowledge sharing, time, and personal skill sets? Individual organizations can be much more targeted about their individual value chain. Building a value chain that is specifically targeted to their activities and operating concept. What are they aiming to find here? I said earlier also, why are we studying value chain? We want to understand the economic value that is created at each stage of the chain from the activities that we have undertaken. Which value are we talking about? We are talking about economic value. So we have to be very clear about this. What kind of value that we talk in industry value chain, and that will be the economic value. And there could be a host of performance measures. How do you say that what is that economic value? What is the common economic value that all of us are looking at? It could be, different parameters. It could be return on investment or debt equity ratio or price earning ratio, many others. Right? And for an effective industry analysis, I should understand where my organization is positioned in the value chain and what activities are taking place both upstream and downstream. Now, what is upstream and downstream? We'll be talking about this more, but we'll just summarize this industry value chain. It is a series of processes that are happening starting from the raw material production to the end product, which is being sold to the consumers. And the economic value that is being produced at each stage or each step of that value chain. Right? So as an organization, I need to understand what is the economic value that I am producing. What am I doing? What is the person above me is doing? Or what is the person below me is doing? That is upstream and downstream. Now, what is upstream and downstream? There might be questions in the exam. What is upstream and downstream? What is downstream? I am standing here. What is downstream? The next step, step 1, step 2, step 3. I am at step 2. What is downstream? What is next to me? What is forwarded to me? Right? That is number 3, step number 3. So if we talk about it in simple terms, it means skip the next part of the value chain and take its place. How? Again, a very simple example. I am an architect, right? And I design the house. Once I have designed the house, the next step after designing the house is building the house, right? And that step is being, this step is being done by a builder, right? So builder is the next step. Architect is step number 1. Builder is step number 2. So the value chain is designing by architect, building the house by builder. What happens is I move from my position and I overtake, or I just take hold of step number 2 also, and I take its place also. Now I overtake builder, I take its place. The new value chain is I design the houses, I am an architect, and I am building the houses. I become builder. Now the builder is removed. The next step is removed altogether. Right? So it's a very simple example, very layman term example of downstream integration or forward integration. That means you are just taking the position of the next step in the value chain. That is downstream integration or forward integration. Now, why does this downstream or this upstream integration happen? This happens because of unique capabilities required to be successful in each component of a value chain. I know, continuing with this example, I know that I am an architect. I know the designing. I've studied the designing. But I might not be very well aware of all the building process. So if I do not have that capability, will I be able to take the place of builder? No, I have to build my capabilities for that. So either to go downstream or to go backstream, we need to understand our capabilities. If this is not the case, if I am not successful, or if I do not have the capability to do well as a component in the value chain, I will get absorbed easily by my competitors, either in the backward or upward stream. So each and every part of a value chain needs to be competitive enough so that it does not get absorbed. Another example of this, which is given in the book, is Apple has opened various channels for its product sales, specifically focusing on retailing at Apple stores. Right? Because the experience of the store draws in customers. Although Apple remains wholesaler to other retailers also, it closely manages these retailers through tight pricing and marginal controls to avoid any competitive pricing. So in a way, it has taken up the next step. It is producing Apple products. At the same time, it has its own retail stores. So that part of retailers is totally absorbed. Right? It has taken the next step. That is downward integration or forward integration. Right? Now, example of the concept that we have applied for downstream integrations, it applies to backward integration also. The example could be where I have taken over the previous step of the value chain. Right now, another example is that a large wholesaler customer now. I have a wholesale customer. Now that this customer does not go back to wholesaler, it straight away goes back to manufacturer. Because earlier what used to happen in the value chain is manufacturer, wholesaler, and retailer. Now this retailer, instead of going to this wholesaler, goes directly to the manufacturer. The step above me is totally gone, totally absorbed. So that is an example of backward integration. So forward integration is we are taking the step, we are absorbing the next step of the value chain. Backward integration is we are absorbing the previous step of the value chain. Once you understand this concept, it will be very easy to do questions on this. Right? When you see a question, just analyze the previous step is being absorbed, or the next step is absorbed, or the previous step is absorbed. Right? So that is upward and downward integration for us. The next is some other trends of a value chain. Now, besides downward and backstream integration, there are few other factors which add complexity to this value chain by altering the components. For example, globalization. Now, with globalization, the different functions of most of the organizations are being carried out. They are carrying out these different functions in their own internal value chain at different locations around the industry. Organization 1, organization 2, organization 3. Value chain, right? 1, 2, 3. Now this 2, organization 2 has gone global. So it has got a value chain in itself, because it is carrying out its production or distribution at different parts of the world. So that is again a complex factor. An internal value chain has been created in one component of a value chain. Right? That is globalization. Another trend is offshoring. Why offshoring is happening? Because of the changing landscape of the value chain. Offshoring is when an organization sends certain functions overseas, often to those countries where the labor is cheap, in order to cut cost. For example, the outsourcing of IT services or the outsourcing of finance services. Because when these services are placed offshore, the cost becomes cheaper. However, as always said, that the core activities of an organization, for example, manufacturing, may happen at a place where the cost is less. But the assembly of those manufactured parts happen onshore at the place where the organization is situated. I have outsourced all the activities. I have outsourced all the manufacturing, but the assembly I am doing onshore at my place. Right? So as a leader, as an accountant, what is your role in this whole value chain? Your role is to understand where you exist in the industry value chain. Once you understand your position in this value chain, you can make the strategies based on this competitive positioning. Right? Another step that we'll be discussing in this video is industry segmentation. This we will be studying further also when we'll be talking about customer segmentation. Now, what is industry segmentation? Industry segmentation refers to breaking things into groups based on their characteristics. Industry segmentation this analysis allows the organization to clearly understand the industry within which it is operating, the profitability and the growth potential, as well as the long-term viability. Right? For this purpose, we can analyze the example which is given in the module. The example number is 2.4. And it talks about the industry segmentation of Australian airline industry. Now, the example says that if we make an industry segment analysis based on fare, there could be further several industry segments, such as supplementary services or fare or freight or budget fare passenger or full fare passenger, right? The industry is airlines industry, but based on the fare, based on the dollars that people are spending, it could be the budget fare passengers. We'll be making a separate strategy for them for budget fare passengers. But if I know that there is a full fare passenger or there is a business passenger, I'll be making a separate strategy for them. That's why it is important to understand industry segments. Each segment has its unique characteristics. As I said, full fare passengers are usually business travelers. So an organization can decide about the profitability of this segment based on how many people are preferring business travel. Can we increase the fare or not? Or can we increase or reduce the capacity or not? Based on the industry segment, I have made this decision. Another segment, budget airlines, they can take care of the budget fare passengers. They specifically target these passengers who are money conscious. The major operators in this case, in case of if we talk about the budget fare airlines, we can easily say that Qantas, Jetstar, they belong to the budget airlines. So these airlines may make their strategy to charge extra for things that are included in full fare segment. They can also minimize the cost by having less variety in aircraft and thus reducing the maintenance parts and parts cost. The freights sector. So all these segments, the industry segments, we need to analyze. In this slide, I've given the example of industry, which is the industry. It's a clothing industry. What are the segments? In this whole clothing industry, I have infant segment. I have men clothing. I have women clothing. Then further, I can say fashion clothing or essential clothing. Right? So all these are industry segments. Why this information is important? Because we should understand what it does and does not include. What is the volume? What is the value? What is the growth trend? And what is the future forecast? So if we know all this industry segmentation, then we can make our policies accordingly. Right? So just going back to what all have we studied till now, we'll say we have done the environment analysis, right? And after environment analysis, we did the industry analysis. What does my industry comprises of? Right? Then I went to do industry definition analysis. What is the exact definition of the industry? Right? The next we have done is industry scope. What all is included in industry? Then we have done downstream, the industry value chain. Then we have done the downstream and downstream and backstream integration. Then we have done some other trends of value chain. Then we have done industry segmentation. Right? In our next video, we'll be talking about industry life cycle stages, and we'll be discussing some facts about what are the different stages of an industry and how we can, by knowing the industry stage, how we can do the planning to increase our position in that industry. I hope you all have found value in today's video. If you have any comments, please do write to me. Thank you so much.